Hey creatives, welcome to Creation Station and Art with Ms. Rucker. Today we're going to learn about an interesting artist named Alexander Calder, and then later we're going to go on to learn about how to do a project that is inspired by Mr. Calder. Alexander Calder, as many of his friends called him Sandy, created what's called kinetic sculptures. Sandy was born in Philadelphia in 1889. Both his parents were artists, so we're not really surprised that he became an artist, because that happens sometimes. Alexander Calder studied art and engineering in college, and his favorite color was red. And we will notice that as we go through and see more of his artworks. He also loved the primary colors, red, yellow, blue, and he would add white and black into it. Before World War II, when he would sculpt, he would mostly use wood, but then he would add leather into it. But then after the war, he began to use sheet metal, which he would paint those bright colors like we talked about just now that he loved so much. Interesting tidbit, the reason he probably didn't use sheet metal before the war was over was because it was a scarce material. So after the war ended and the material became more readily available, that's probably what prompted him to go in and using more things like sheet metal. Alexander was most famous for inventing the mobile, which is a balanced sculpture that moves. And it was called a kinetic sculpture. Kinetic means moving. Someone who is a kinesthetic learner is someone who likes to move and do while they're learning. And so a kinetic sculpture is a sculpture that moves. He also created sculptures that didn't move, and they were called stables. Kind of makes sense. It's stable. It just sits there. And some examples of Calder stables are here. You'll see on the left here we have this all black one. Lots of interesting movement, curves and everything, interesting shapes. And it's more organic. On the right we have one that's a little bit more geometric in feeling. And we see again those colors that he likes so much. Red, blue, black, and white. Here's another example of one of his stables. And when Sandy was 8 years old, he was given a tool set, and he loved playing and inventing things in his workshop. He also loved the circus, and so he created his own circus. And the Calder Circus had over 50 moving parts, and things were made out of wire and leather and cloth, and this was seriously something to behold. He also was a painter, and he would do lithographs, which is a type of printmaking. And here we see some of his paintings. They have vibrant paintings. And what colors do you see? Red, yellow, blue, black, white. And they have lots of shapes, and movement. Shapement. That's a word now. Shapement. So it's going to have all this movement. If you'll see that spiral line that swoops and loops going through it, and then little leaves are swooshy off to the side, makes me think of a vine. And then those bright, bold colors, it definitely moves your eye around. Remember, I'm always talking about how important it is as you're working on your composition. You want your eye to move around and not just all fixate on one spot. Same thing we see with this little crazy multi-legged animal over there that has all these colors and lines, and it moves our eye all over his work. And then this last one I have to show you. It's another example with him and his bright, vibrant colors and those lots of moving lines and shapes. So this is some of the work of Alexander Calder. An interesting tidbit, going back to the mobile, if you watch Despicable Me, in the girls' bedroom there is a mobile hanging up, and it is inspired by one of Alexander Calder's mobiles. So now I want to show you what we are going to do today. We are going to work with what materials we have on hand. We're not going to go out and buy stuff. Alexander Calder had to work with materials on hand with him before the war, so we're going to do that as well. I chose to use the Kool-Aid Jammers box, you see? And I cut out the circles, and because I wanted it to be vibrant and not dull, like the back of a thing, when we having one side having colors and the other side being dull, I cut out twice as many as I needed, and then I glued them together. And I'm going to tell you, it didn't take long for them to stick. I glued them together, went downstairs, we had supper, cleaned up and tidied up. When I came up, they were dry. like an hour later. So they're well able to work with now. So when you cut them out, you're going to lay your cardboard down. You can use poster board. You can use the inside of a box, like this was the Kool-Aid Jammers box. I also snagged my son's Cocoa Puffs, chocolate puffs. Yes, we bought generic. Box. I could have used that, and that's sizable. I could get a lot of shapes out of that. But I used this, and what I did on here is I wanted this little oval shape, and so I just set my glue down and traced around it. And for these round shapes, I just grabbed my son's shaving cream. Yes, I'm going to put it back. It'll have a fit. And I just traced around it. And once I got the first two traced, then I cut those out and laid it down so that I knew all the others would match it. Now, I didn't have to do geometric shapes. I could have used organic shapes. And so whatever floats your boat. A lot of Alexander Calder's work was very organic, and some were quite geometric. Now remember, organic is something that looks more like it would come in nature. Apparently I can't speak tonight. Love me. Anyway, and organic shapes, that's geometric shapes, are man-made shapes. It's perfectly cut out. So now, what are we going to do? We want a sculpture that will be able to rise up. And so I have taken these pieces, and if you can see, I've already cut little grooves in some of them. See that there? See if that shows up there with my hand behind it. And I actually did these slightly too wide, because I really only needed that opening to be as wide as this is here. And if you'll see, that it's just too wide. So it makes them want to flop. So I'm probably going to have a touch of glue when I get close to the end. And I have some that are already glued. Some have spots on both sides. This one only has one. But in order for our shape to begin to rise up and take form, then we're going to need it to have sometimes two spots so they can slide in. I have one here that I've already started. And you can see it's just the interlocking pieces. And because they have the shapes cut out there, and there's one cut out on there, and I can just slide them together, and now the interlocking. And I do want to consider balance when I'm doing this. So I want to think about where's the next piece going to go and how will it balance. Now this has a groove cut that way, so that's going to bring it back down. Kind of like that. Or I can move it and put it someplace else. You are going to get 15 pieces. You're going to have 15 shapes. They can be organic, geometric, or a combination of both. If you have paint and you would like to cut this and paint the sides, go for it. If all you have is poster board, then just use the poster board and you don't have to worry about painting it. I did think it would look funny to have one side have the brown and the other side have these fun bright colors. So I chose to cut out twice as many and put them together because we are creating a work of art. I don't care if it's just with cardboard, it's still a work of art. So those are important things to consider as you are putting together your work. Now, I'm going to show you how to cut one. I've already shown you how to put them together just by doing that. So I'm going to come in and I have one that's already cut. And remember I told you that it's too wide. It's too wide. That's almost wider than a quarter. Probably should have been about the size of a penny. But it depends on your material. If you're using just one sheet of poster board, it's going to need to be pretty thin little incision. If it's a big piece of regular box, like a cardboard box, then it's going to need to be wider. It's going to have to fit together, okay? It needs to fit together. So I'm going to come in with this one, and I'm just going to go in a little ways. You can see I didn't cut in very far. And I'm going to come in right beside it and cut another little bitty line, see? And it's better to have had to cut it twice than to mess up like I did. So there's the part that I cut. See, it's sticking up. And now I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm going to come in and snip that off. Now I've got two pieces that will neatly slide together. See? That's all they did. And then this one's going to need another spot if I'm going to add it to the rest of this sculpture. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to put another line. They don't have to go straight in. They can go at an angle. That allows them to get some interesting movement and interesting direction going on your work. And I'm going to snip that. I have a garbage can beside me, so I don't make a huge mess all over my studio. And now I have those, and I can come in. Oh, they don't have a spot. What am I thinking? So, you know what? I'm going to take this puppy out because he only has one spot. And this one already has two, so I'm going to slide it in. That's the cool thing, too. As you cut these, you can say, ooh, I need to go a different direction with that. So, I'm going to come in and add this. Now, uh-oh, I didn't think about balance, did I? So I'm definitely going to have something that comes over here and balances this. So maybe this wasn't the best piece to go there. Maybe I need to go this direction. Nope, still going to pull it over. So these, I'm glad you're seeing me go, ooh, that's precariously done. I need to maybe put a cut in this one so it can start coming off in another direction. And I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to come in and make a small incision, small cut, not incision. That's like what you do when you're getting surgery. I'm doing surgery on my artwork, just a small cut. I don't want to go too deep on this one because I want it to fit. And these are things that you're going to discover as you're going along. Oh, snap, I just pinched my finger. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. So I'm going to slide that back in there. And now I'm going to get this to come off right here. And this one already has, I can't get it to go in. Ha ha ha. So now it's coming up, see? And now this one can come and have this coming in here. And it's getting to where it's coming all off. And so as you just keep building on it, and you're going to keep adding it all together and putting it, once it's all together, if you see there's some spots that might need a touch of glue, you're welcome to do that. If you cut the openings not too wide, you're really not going to wind up needing the glue. It's just because I did get froggy and cut them a little too deep or too wide. So that is an example of, oh, it fell over. See, balance is important. So that's an example of how to start building your Calder-inspired sculpture. I am excited what you're going to create. I can't wait to see it. And I want you to upload it to our classroom for those of you who are viewing this for class. And for those of you who might be viewing this just for kicks and giggles, I hope you have a lot of fun creating and working on an artwork that is inspired by Alexander Calder.